Okay, everybody. So we are talking about the female reproductive system. Uh, so one part or organ is the vagina, and you need to know the layers in the wall of the vagina, which is also known as birth canal. It has 3 layers in the wall. Outermost layer is called adventitia. So that is the outermost layer. It is fibroelastic. Fibrous layer gives protection, you know that, right? Fibrous means tough. So fibroelastic. And then middle layer is muscularis, formed by smooth muscle. And innermost epithelial lining is stratified squamous. And innermost layer forms rugae. Do you remember rugae? You saw inside the stomach and inside the urinary bladder, right? Remember? So 4 links of mucosa. So you also have rugae or 4 links of mucosa in the innermost layer of the vagina. Oogenesis is the process of the formation and maturation of an ovum. You know, spermatogenesis is the production of sperm. Oogenesis is the production of what? Ovum or oocyte or egg. Now, after each oogenesis, female only gets 1 ovum. Okay? Only 1 egg or ovum. You remember, I told you that both in spermatogenesis and oogenesis, let me turn this on. Both spermatogenesis and oogenesis, both mitosis and meiosis occur. Remember that? First mitosis to increase the number, and then meiosis to reduce the chromosome number to what? Half. Right? So, in oogenesis also, first mitosis occurs to produce new cells from the stem cell, new cell from the stem cell, and then meiosis to reduce the chromosome to half. Okay? So, we'll see here. See the left side. First mitosis, it keeps the chromosome number same. So what happens, this is the stem cell, okay, 2N. Mitosis produces 2 daughter cells. Both have same number of chromosomes. This one will stay here to produce new cells, and this one will go to oogenesis. Okay? So first meiosis will occur. So the meiosis 1, you already know, will reduce the number of chromosomes to half. Meiosis 1, right? We talked about that before. And then meiosis 2 will occur. But the difference between spermatogenesis and oogenesis here is, see, when first meiosis will occur, meiosis 1 will occur, most of the materials from this cell will go to one side. So this side will get almost no materials, cellular materials. So this will be a healthy cell, and this will be unhealthy, which is called a polar body. Okay, non-functional. So in case of spermatogenesis, both got same amount of material, so both are healthy. Remember, so division created two healthy. In this case, most of the cellular materials will go to one side. Okay, another will be a polar body. So this is non-functional, this is healthy one. Okay, then both of these will divide again, and so this one is weak one, will produce two more weak by meiosis 2, and this one by meiosis 2 will do same thing here. Most of the materials will go to one, and this one will be another polar body. Okay, so you see here, you've got three polar bodies. And only one healthy ovum. One healthy ovum. Okay? So first we got a polar body and healthy, then this polar body divides by meiosis 2 to form two more polar bodies, and this one will make one healthy, one polar. So we got four, but these three are polar bodies. They are not useful. Only one healthy ovum or egg or oocyte. And this one has half number of chromosomes. So when the sperm will fertilize, that one also has half. So we'll get the zygote, the first cell of the new body, 2N. Okay, so that is the zygote. So now let's see. Here, you see, this is meiosis 1. So this is healthy, this is polar body. So this polar body will form two more polar bodies. This healthy one will divide into two, one healthy, one polar body. So finally, we'll get three polar bodies, one healthy ovum. Okay. Now, one thing is important here, actually two things. One is, you need to remember this part. Mitosis starts when the girl in mother's uterus, that is before birth. The oogenesis starts when the baby is inside mother's uterus. That means even before birth, oogenesis starts. Then what happens? It stay like that for about 14 years, 13, 14 years until puberty. It stays like that, halted. Okay? No more movement. So then at puberty, again it starts. So it starts before the birth of the baby girl. Then from birth until puberty, nothing happens. Okay? Then after, you see, nothing happens during infancy and childhood. Okay? Then at puberty, it starts again. So meiosis 1 and meiosis 2. So that is one important thing. Another is meiosis 2 of this one will not be completed if fertilization does not occur. If sperm does not fertilize the egg. Only sperm, when sperm fertilizes, you see here the sperm, then it is completed. Okay? So this is interesting. So a couple of things. It starts before the birth of the baby girl, but stays like that until puberty, and then starts again. And meiosis 2 will be completed only if the egg is fertilized by the sperm. Ovarian cycle, we talked about this in last class. 14 days, maturation of follicle, then rupture of the follicle, 0 day, that is the ovulation, and then corpus luteum is formed and act as a temporary gland, that yellow structure, to secrete those 3 hormones, stays for 14 days if no fertilization occurs. If fertilization occurs, the corpus luteum will decide to stay how long? Anybody? 3 months. Okay. So 14 days if fertilization does not occur, right? But if fertilization occurs, it decides to stay for 3 months. Why 3 months? Not 9, 10 months. Why not during the whole pregnancy? Placenta takes over the function of the corpus luteum. Okay? So corpus luteum becomes corpus albicans, the white scar tissue like structure, and will be disintegrated. Okay. Now, hormonal regulation of the ovarian cycle. From the anterior pituitary, you know, pituitary gland, you have already learned, anterior pituitary has 6 hormones, posterior 2, in anterior 1. Anterior pituitary secretes FSH, follicle stimulating hormone, and LH, luteinizing hormone. Follicle stimulating hormone, its name is telling you, right? It will work on the ovary. Ovary has the follicles, right? So will stimulate the follicles to grow and get mature. That's why it is called follicle stimulating hormone. Make sense? So will work on the follicles to help its growth and maturation. So follicle will quickly go over, you know, primordial follicle to primary, then secondary, then Graafian follicle. Luteinizing hormone also helps in the growth of the follicle, but main function of luteinizing hormone is rupture of the follicle. You remember that causes ovulation? The Graafian follicle I mentioned in last class, that is like a ripe fruit, right? Very soft, lot of fluid inside it. So ready to rupture, right? But before it ruptures, what happens? Plenty of luteinizing hormone is suddenly released from the anterior pituitary. That is called luteinizing hormone surge, or LH surge. Suddenly, plenty of luteinizing hormone will be released. Make sense? And that will cause the rupture of the Graafian follicle. It is ready to rupture, but it needs something to hit it. Okay? So it's like that. So luteinizing hormone, or LH surge, will cause the ovulation. Here, you see, luteinizing hormone surge causing the rupture of the Graafian follicle to release the egg, to cause ovulation. Now you tell me, if I block these two, then what will happen? The follicle will not grow, will not get matured, as well as rupture will not occur. Make sense? So, corpus luteum, that yellow structure, will inhibit the release of FSH and LH. So, as long as corpus luteum is there, these two will not be released. Make sense? As long as corpus luteum is there, FSH and LH will not be released. You know from last class, corpus luteum secretes what? Estrogen, progesterone, and inhibin. Remember these three? These three will inhibit the pituitary. So follicular stimulating hormone and luteinizing will not be secreted. Okay, so if they are not secreted, then follicle will not grow and rupture. Okay, so as long as corpus luteum is present, these will not be released. So follicle will not grow and will not rupture. Make sense? And then the corpus luteum is replaced by what? Placenta, right? So placenta will now release those 3 hormones. Make sense? To keep the pituitary inhibited. Don't secrete FSH, LH. And if that happens, no ovulation will occur. So that's how during the entire pregnancy, no ovulation occurs. Does it make sense? Everybody got it? So as long as corpus luteum is there, no ovulation. Placenta is there, no ovulation. Okay? Because they both will secrete these 3. They will inhibit the pituitary. Okay. Here, you can see here, these 3 will inhibit the pituitary as well as the hypothalamus. So these will not be released. When the corpus luteum is destroyed after 14 days, then these will not be released. So pituitary will release this. Another follicle will get mature and rupture. Uterine cycle. Uterine cycle is the changes inside the uterus. Changes inside the uterus. That's why it is called uterine cycle, also known as menstrual cycle. Okay, so in last class I mentioned that endometrium of the uterus has 2 layers. One is fixed, that is called stratum basalis. Stratum basalis, and another one is not fixed. Uterus makes nice soft bed, you must remember. So this is the nice soft bed. Okay? And this layer of the endometrium is called stratum functionalis. Functionalis. Okay? So these 2 together is the endometrium. Endometrium. So endometrium has 2 layers. Fixed one, this is the fixed one, and this is the one that changes. Okay, changes. And this is the soft bed the uterus has prepared to receive the fertilized egg. But if fertilization does not occur, it will be destroyed. Okay? So it will break into pieces. Now how that happens, I mentioned in last class. You remember the straight arteries and spiral arteries. Spiral arteries go to the functional layer. And when these arteries are heavily constricted, then no blood supply is in this part, functionalis layer. So it is destroyed, okay, and gets out from the body. Now, what are the things here? You have the blood vessels, so ruptured blood vessels, some blood will come out, broken tissue pieces, and glands, okay? All those things will get out from the body. That is the menstruation, okay? Menstruation. And then, after the whole functional layer is destroyed, again, new functional layer will be formed, okay? That is called proliferation, increasing the number of cells to form this layer again, that soft bed again, okay? So this is the proliferation. So this part is called the secretory phase. This is the menstruation, breakdown and shedding, and again the layer is being formed. This is called the proliferative phase. Okay, so menstrual cycle consists of these three things: formation of the nice bed, thick nice bed, that is the secretory phase, when a lot of glands are formed here, and these glands secrete fluid to make it soft, nice. Then this whole layer is destroyed, that is the menstruation, and then this layer is again formed. Okay, this one lasts about 14 days, secretory part. This one about 7 days, and proliferation is another 7 days. So total 28 days. So menstrual cycle has 28 days. Make sense? Ovarian cycle, how many days? 28. Very good. Remember? 14 days for proliferative, follicular, then ovulation 0, then another 14 days luteum, corpus luteum, luteal phase, right? So these two go together. Make sense? In the ovarian cycle, in the uterus, uterine cycle. They go together. Now, if you see here, this is the secretory, 14 days. What happens during this part, you see thick soft bed, functional is layer, okay, a lot of blood supply and a lot of glands. These are glands. These glands secrete a lot of fluid, and nutrition. So it is very soft, nutrient-rich bed. Like when you do gardening, you make a bed, right? And put a lot of, soil and fertilizer, water, right? To make it nice, soft, and a lot of nutrition is there, right? To grow the plant. Same thing here. The glands secrete the fluid that contains a lot of nutrition and plenty of blood supply in the bed. And that is the longest part, 14 days. And if fertilization does not occur, then the uterus destroys the bed. So you see here, after this, the bed is being destroyed. Okay, that is the menstruation. So when the bed is destroyed, blood vessels, destroyed blood vessels, some blood, destroyed glands, and tissue. All those things together get out. And after that, this layer is formed again. Okay, that is the proliferative. Now one thing you need to see here, hormonal changes regulate these phases. So these three phases are controlled by the hormones, estrogen, progesterone. So let's see. Only focus on those two, estrogen, progesterone. Although inhibin also is released by the corpus luteum. So you see, let's see here. This is the secretory phase. This one. You see the progesterone level is very high in the blood. Also, estrogen is high, but progesterone is above the estrogen. Okay, so progesterone level is really very high. And when the progesterone level drops at the end of the secretory phase, that causes constriction of the spiral arteries. So destruction of the functional layer. So that is important, right? See, the progesterone drops, goes below the estrogen, and that causes a strong constriction of the spiral arteries. So menstruation occurs. Okay. Now let's see the proliferative phase. In this part, you see the estrogen rises. It goes up to the peak, the end. Okay. So gradually, the estrogen level increases in this phase. So just remember that progesterone is higher than estrogen during the secretory, and drop of progesterone causes the destruction, squeezing the artery, and during the proliferative phase, estrogen level goes up, and that causes the growth of the layer or formation of the layer again. Okay, so those are three phases of menstrual cycle. Okay. Now, one more thing. You remember okay. So, what is this? Ovary. This is the uterine tube, right? And this is the uterus. Okay. So, this is the endometrium. Endometrium. Okay, of the uterus. This is the ovary, and this is the uterine tube. Now, uterine tube has different parts, right? I mentioned in last class. At the end, you have finger-like structures. Those are called what? Fimbriae. Okay? And when ovulation occurs, the egg or ovum comes out from the ovary and enters into the uterine tube. This part is called infundibulum, by the way, you know that. So, fimbriae, infundibulum. Then this part is called, this is very important part, right? This part is called what? Ampoule. Why this is important? Because what? When the ovum arrives here, sperm most of the time, if fertilization occurs, it occurs here. Okay. So this is the sperm, this is the ovum, and at the ampulla, fertilization occurs. Okay. Then fertilized egg is the zygote. Now it has two ends, one from sperm, one from ovum. Okay. This is the first cell of new life. Okay. Then by mitosis, it starts to divide. So this is 2-cell stage by mitosis. Then 2 becomes 4. Then becomes 8. Okay. These 2 to 8 cell stages are called blastomere. So zygote is 1 cell fertilized egg, and then it divides by mitosis. First 2, 4, 8. All these stages are called blastomere. Make sense? Then a solid ball of about 16 cells are formed. This is a solid ball of about 16 cells. This stage is called morula. It's like mulberry. You know mulberry? The berry. So the morula came from mulberry. It is a solid. Then what happens, you see? Inside this solid ball, a cavity is formed. So this is the cavity, contains the fluid. And this stage is called blastocyst. So solid ball is what? Morula, right? And when a cavity inside that solid ball appears, that stage is called what? Blastocyst. Okay? And blastocyst enters into the uterine cavity. So let's draw blastocyst. It enters into the uterus. And it takes about from here to here after fertilization to enter into the uterus. To arrive into the uterus, it takes about 7 to 10 days. Okay, so 7 to 10 days to arrive inside the uterus. And during that time, you see, cell division continues, mitosis continues. And then, after the blastocyst enters into the uterine cavity, it takes about 3 days to get implanted attached to the endometrium. So now this is the implantation. Okay. Implantation. Like you are putting the seed in the bed of soil. So this is the blastocyst sticks to the endometrium. Now what happens next? In the endometrium, we'll see here. Okay, what happens next? This is the endometrium. This is the blastocyst, implanted blastocyst, and the cells here, they proliferate and make a mass of cell that is called inner cell mass, a mass of cells. Okay, inner cell mass, and a layer that forms the covering of the blastocyst. It's like a soccer ball or a ball. The covering is formed by these cells. These are called trophoblasts. Okay, so implanted blastocyst grows further to form an inner cell mass and covering, that is the trophoblast, these cells. And this is the endometrium, the layer of the uterus, right? Then next what happens? These trophoblasts are attached to the endometrium. These trophoblasts proliferate, multiply like this. Okay? This is interesting that it's growing the root in the endometrium, in the soil, okay? And form villi, finger-like, root-like structures. These are called chorionic villi, okay? Finger-like structures. You have in the intestine too, right? Villi. And then something happens here. All these cell membranes are destroyed. So this whole thing is called, it is like one big structure because all cell membranes are fused together, and that is called syncytial trophoblast. Okay, why it is called syncytial? Let's go back. Have you heard the word syncytium? Anybody? Sounds familiar? Syncytium? In cardiac muscle, yes. When we talked about the heart muscle, properties of heart muscle, one property was what? Syncytium, acting as an unit together, right? So it is like one thing. So since all these cells get together, that's why it is called syncytial trophoblast. One. Anyway, these are important. Chorionic villi. Chorionic villi secrete a hormone. That hormone is called human chorionic gonadotropin. Have you heard this? Some of you. Human chorionic gonadotropin, HCG, and this hormone is tested in the blood to detect the pregnancy. To detect what? Pregnancy. Okay. Usually, after 11 days after fertilization, if fertilization occurs, okay, after about 11 days, you will find this hormone in the blood because chorionic villi are formed and secrete that hormone in mother's uterus. Okay. So this is a confirmation of pregnancy. Now, in between the villi, you have sinuses. Everybody knows sinuses now, right? Cavities, where mother's blood accumulates. So mother's blood is here, in between the villi. And these sinuses or cavities are called lacunae. Lacunae. Okay. So in between the villi, you have lacunae or cavities or sinuses, and those are filled with mother's blood. So from the mother's blood, nutrition and oxygen and nutrition enter into the embryo. Make sense? Because chorionic villi, those are the parts of the embryo. Now, this is very important. Inner cell mass. This inner cell mass forms the embryo. That is the most important thing, right? So embryo is formed by that inner cell mass. The last thing, inner cell mass forms 3 layers here. How many? 3 layers. So inner cell mass forms 3 layers. Like this is 1 layer. Okay. This is the middle layer. And this is the 3rd layer. Okay. And those 3 layers form the whole body. Endoderm, mesoderm, and ectoderm. These three layers come from the inner cell mass. Make sense? Endoderm, mesoderm, and what? Endoderm. Not exo, endo. Okay. Ectoderm, mesoderm, endoderm. From endoderm, endo means inside, right? The inner linings of your respiratory, your GI tract, inner epithelial lining of those organs are mostly come from endo. Make sense? Meso is the middle one, right? So what do you think? The muscles. If you think the esophagus or intestine, okay? Innermost layer will come from endo, epithelium. Then thick muscular layer, meso. And outer layer, ecto. That's why you have three, okay? And most of the innermost layers come from endoderm. Most of the muscles come from mesoderm. Most of the outer layers, including your epidermis of the skin, right, come from ectoderm. There is a lot of overlapping, okay? But this is in general, okay? In general, three layers form those three types of structures or parts of the body. And those three layers are called the germ layers. And these are all stem cells, right? Inner cell mass and all three layers, these are stem cells. And stem cell research, you know, in embryonic tissue, stem cells are collected from there, okay? So you can direct these cells to go to any direction, right? Because these are not yet differentiated, undifferentiated cells. They are forming so many different organs, right? So you can guide them to go to different directions to form different types of tissue. Make sense? You can make brain tissue, you can make cardiac tissue, you can make, you know, epithelial tissue, if you can guide them correctly. And that is the stem cell research, to produce different types of tissue or organ. Okay? So have you heard twins, monozygotic and dizygotic twins? Okay. So this is ovum, this is sperm. After fertilization, you remember zygote, then blastocyst, blastomeres, right? Then morula, solid ball, right? So during any of these stages, if any division occurs, like a partition, then this cell will form one embryo, this cell will form a separate embryo. Or if it happens here, these cells will form one embryo, these cells will form another embryo. But coming from one zygote, make sense? That's why identical, genetically, but identical. So these twins will be monozygotic from one zygote. That's why called monozygotic twin. Now, if we know that normally one ovum is getting matured and released at a time, but if two ovums are released, that can also happen at the same time, and both get fertilized. So two embryo will be formed, but they are coming from two separate zygotes, right? So not genetically exactly identical. Make sense? That's why these are dizygotic twins. Make sense? So Monozygotic is more identical genetically. Okay, I think if you know those things.